All right, we see some people filtering in here. Thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to get started in just a minute. So hold tight and we'll get started in a sec. All right, just give it another minute here. Thanks everybody for joining us on this fine Wednesday morning, or maybe it's nighttime where you are. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Sammy Focarino. I'm the Senior Events Manager here at Consensus. I'm going to be the moderator for today's awesome session. This webinar is presented by Consensus. Consensus is intelligent demo automation software that helps scale pre-sales with interactive video demos. You can learn more at goconsensus.com. We had a great time at our events this year so far. DemoFest X West Coast was in San Francisco in March. We had our largest event of the year was our virtual DemoFest in May. Ron was one of our top speakers at that event, so very excited for this session personally. But we're also really excited to be working towards our next events later this year in Dublin in September, London in October, and New York City in November. You can register for any of these events at demofest.com, which I will also post the link to in the chat. All right, a couple housekeeping items. We encourage you to participate in Ron's webinar today. Our speaker will answer any questions at the close of the session, but you're welcome to post your questions at any time through the Q&A box. And we also encourage you to chat with us as well as each other in the chat box. So stay involved in the session today. And with that, I would like to introduce our speaker. Ron Whitson is an accomplished pre-sales leader with a remarkable background in sales engineering and solution consulting. With a natural talent for simplifying complex software and presenting it in a straightforward manner, he has an exceptional ability to connect with his audience and gain their trust through his compelling storytelling skills. As an effective team leader, Ron has a proven track record of building and leading high-performing teams. In his current capacity as Vice President of Global Pre-Sales Services at Seismic, he leads a team of sales engineers and helps others start their careers in this field. In addition, Ron is a member of the leadership team at the Presales Collective, an organization dedicated to supporting professionals in pre-sales roles and helping them build successful careers. And with that, I will turn the rest of the time over to you, Ron.
Yeah, well, thanks, Sammy. And again, I'm just really happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation from Consensus to present. I really enjoy talking about pre-sales. I think anyone who knows me knows that. And it was kind of fun when Sammy and I were kicking around some ideas for this one. She kept on using words like seasoned and veteran and grizzled, which I think are just euphemisms for old. So I've got to do some more thinking about that. But we landed on this idea of what are some things that I've learned that I can share from literally 25 years of being in pre-sales. And so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Tenured talent, I like that one too. Thanks. So I'm doing something a little bit different today. I don't really have an agenda slide. We're just going to jump directly into the tips. I've got some stories from my experience to share with you all. And then at the end, I've got a couple of questions for you. And like Sammy said, certainly we'll take some time to answer some questions. So let's just kind of get right into it. When I started out doing this, I had a friend who'd called me up and he said, "Hey, Ron, there's this thing called a sales engineer. I think you'd like it and I think you'd be good at it." And it sounded like a good opportunity, right? So I went and joined him, and he was my first mentor, Shane Phillips, to learn how to do this. He had been doing it for about a year at that time, so tenured pro. And it was fun just kind of seeing how he put his spin on sales engineering and then building my presentation around that. And the first thing I really learned getting into the job was this idea of aligning on expectations. So, I had to dig back through the archives to find a picture of, the early Ron sales engineer. So I was able to find one, and actually, speaking of aligning on expectations, I may have made a mistake last night. I was walking my wife through these slides, and she said, "Wait a minute, is that what you're going to look like in a couple of months?" And I had to say yes. So I've got some work to do on that. But anyway, getting back to aligning on expectations, I didn't want to go and do a presentation with my seller and have them throw me into the bus and we had a bad meeting. So early on, I figured out that I need to be in alignment with my seller. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? For me, it meant having a real clear understanding of what they wanted to get out of the meeting. You're not there to do a demo. You're there to try to move the opportunity to the next stage. My piece of it is typically the demo, was typically the demo. So what I did was I would actually build an outline of what I thought we needed to show in the presentation and then get their input. I wanted to get them to sign off on that agenda, on that outline. That way they were owning it too, right? So if we went and had a bad meeting, they couldn't throw me under the bus because it was their plan too. And that worked pretty well, except we would still have a bad meeting. We would have a meeting that didn't land. And we're sitting there thinking, oh man, what did we miss? What did we miss? Oh yeah, your audience. Your audience is going to come to these meetings, these presentations with an expectation as well. And it's important to align with them also. How do you do that? You do that through a lot of discovery and sometimes even a dry run. And my best story about this is a deal we did with Texas Instruments here in DFW. It's a few years back, but we had a great champion there in Christy Ringheimer. Hey, Christy. And she was wonderful in helping us with discovery and giving us lots of information. And as I was building out this demo environment, I felt really comfortable with it. It really looked like a solution for TI. And so when we're getting ready for the big meeting, I reached out to my salesperson. It's like, hey, let's get some time and let's do a full-on dry run with Christy. And they liked that idea. And what I mean full-on dry run, we're talking about walking them through every slide and getting her feedback. She had a couple of suggestions on the sides, and then going screen by screen through the demo and showing the things that we were planning to show. And she had some great ideas there too. This was really important because we were so in alignment on everything that when I showed up, we did the big presentation, everybody was immediately sold, and we seriously closed that deal on the strength of one demo, and it was a 6-figure deal. So tip number 1, aligning on expectations. That's a really good one, really important one. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is all about blocking your calendar. That's your most precious resource as a sales engineer is your time. Now, where did the image come from? You can see the little prompt there. I love playing around with AI. I think it's a great assistant. There's a really cool tool called Imagine.ai. The prompt was a warrior in front of a wall calendar guarding it. I don't know why he's from the past, but he's a warrior. He's protecting my calendar. He's protecting my time. You need to do the same. So what does that look like? That looks like going in and blocking your calendar. I'll show you what mine looks like in just a minute. It's about not allowing other people to determine how long it should take you to do something. You are the person who knows how long it should take you to prep different things. Don't let other people put a box around your time. And then finally, don't let other people put meetings on your calendar without some notification or some context. That's just not professional. And I see it happen all the time. And what you have to do, if you want someone to call you quicker than anything else, when they send that invite out, decline it. Decline it. Watch how fast they get on the phone and give you the context and the information that you need. So block your calendar, own your time. You've got to manage it well because, again, it's your most precious commodity. Here's what my calendar looked like. Don't adjust your glasses. Don't adjust your monitors. I did blur it for some specific reasons. You see a bunch of different colors on there. I use color to kind of help guide things. The red things are things that can't be moved. And you see the big red blob right there in the middle. That's this webinar. Couldn't move it. It's an important thing, right? The green is my lunch. I really do block out lunch every day and try to own that time. I need to recharge. I need to be able to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. I need to be able to have that time to kind of step away from my desk and step away from the Slack and the email and everything else. The blue boxes that you guys see around there, that's focus time. Now it's blue because it can be moved. It is negotiable. If I need to do something, I could take away focus time, maybe shorten it, move it somewhere else. But it's about protecting sections of my calendar so if something pops up the last minute, I'm able to address it. And then other things are just regular meetings on there. At the very top, you see some red blocks. That's our team's shared calendar. So I can see which of my teammates are on PTO. So I don't send them an email when they're on PTO or something like that. But lots of calendar blocking tools out there. I just go and block mine. And I usually do it 2 weeks ahead. And that's why I like to tell people on the team, right? Give yourself a block calendar for 2 weeks out, and that gives you pretty good flexibility. Now here, me and Trevor are back at the bar now. So tip number 3, invest in the relationship with your sellers. You're going to be working with these people. You want to have good relationships there so you guys can go out and have fun and get things done for your company. Now, it's not always about, having adult beverages and relaxing. It's about getting to know them as a person, understanding their motivations. It doesn't, sometimes it may seem like you're at odds with the seller on what you want to accomplish, but that's really not the case. They just have different things they're trying to do. You're both trying to get to the same end result as far as being able to close an opportunity with a prospect. They've got different motivations as far as the quota and everything else. You've got motivations around wanting to do a good job with the product presentation, the demo. Just spend some time, get to know them. It'll be well worth it. I've got so many people in my network who are sellers who I've worked with in the past, and there's a lot of them. Greg Sharp, Jacqueline Nicholson, a few others, George, there's a few others I could name. If they called me up and said they wanted to go do something tomorrow, my first answer is yes. And then I get the rest of the information from them because we had that great working relationship and sold a lot of stuff. Number 4, plan and prioritize your prep time. Now, really, this is a lesson that I wished I would have learned earlier in my career. I was a bit of a procrastinator early as an SE. And so I always tell this story about, it's 2 a.m. I'm in the hotel room prepping for the demo. Probably should have got some stuff done before 2 a.m., but that's where I was. So this is the technique I use now when I've got something I need to get done. I basically build that list, build that action plan, everything that needs to be done, right? And then go back through and prioritize it based on how much time it's going to take and what is going to be the impact to my audience. If I spend 3 hours on something and it's that's not a good trade-off. So, and if you've got a long runway, maybe you can do those things, right? But as you get into that time crunch, you really need to understand the best way to spend your time. Are there existing assets you could pick up and just put a different label on or change something about them to be able to make it work and make it fit the story you're trying to tell? Are there other resources available to you? Here at Seismic, we've got our GPS team, Global Presale Services team. That's what we do. We build tenants, we build assets, we help the SEs in the field have more time to pursue those relationships and tell those great seismic stories. And last but not least, certainly not least, leave time for at least one run through. Don't let the first time you run through this great plan be in front of your prospect. That's a little bit of a recipe for disaster right there. All right, number 5. No, I'm sorry. This is an old slide. This shouldn't be in this deck. This is when we used to travel and go places. Let me get the right side here for you. There we go. That's so much better. So you really do need to know your audience. You need to understand who you're speaking to. What are they wanting to get out of the meeting? What are they wanting to accomplish? Why are they spending their time here? We all spend way too many time on Zoom meetings, so we need to make it something that's going to be worth their while. And knowing a little bit about them will certainly help in that regard. And I think do some of you guys on this call have some ideas? Mark, you raise your hand. Yeah, spend time on the company's website. Great suggestion, Mark. That can really help. You can find the mission statement, right? Maybe you can find some information on their careers page about positions they're looking for. There's a lot of great information you could get there. Jordan, you had something to add. Use AI tools. Okay, man after my own heart right there. Love using AI. You could have the AI assistant impersonate a position at the company and ask it what questions that role would be most interested in. Martin, you had one? Ask your seller to get a list of attendees and titles. That's probably the first thing to do, right? Sellers should know who's there. And you can't always rely on titles. Titles can be helpful, but don't rely on them. I've seen lots of times when the true champion, the true person who had the power was sitting back and had a proxy asking questions. And that could be a real interesting dynamic to see. It's probably easier to see in person than in a virtual call, but you get the idea. I think Oliver had something to add. Search for earning calls or 10K filings. I did this just recently. I just did a quick Google search on a company we were talking to, found their recent earnings call. And the really cool thing was I found 3 initiatives in that earnings call that we were able to tie into our story as a hook. Now, the thing I actually did was I found the earnings call, grabbed the transcript, popped it into my good friend chat, and had it summarize that call for me. So it saved me a ton of time. And then Marcel, you're on mute. Marcel, okay, there we go. Check your connections check your network for a connection and contact. And actually we had someone, Michael, on the chat talked about LinkedIn profiles. Absolutely. Look and see if you're connected to someone at that company, then do that reach out and say, hey, tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing. These are all great ways to get to know your audience get to kind of understand who you're speaking with, and that can really help inform what you need to do in your meeting as your presentation. All right, number 6, always have a pre-flight checklist. This is probably the one tip that will save you some heartache if you follow this religiously, and I still do. I actually went through my checklist this morning with Sammy before we got started here. I've got a buddy who's a pilot for a large airline based out of the DFW area. I'll let you try to figure out which one that is. And before he joined American, he was screwed that up. Sorry. Before he joined them, he was actually an Air Force pilot. So I think he has like 35 years now of flying experience. And he and I were talking about checklists the other night at dinner. He said, "Oh no." He said, "I actually do have that checklist." And in the commercial airline industry, one person's job is to read off the checklist, and the other person's job is to actually check and make sure that switch or that button is in the proper position. They've got normal checklists. They've got checklists for when bad things happen. They've got checklists for inclement weather at the airport. They have all these checklists to ensure their safety and make sure bad things don't happen. I think we should have a checklist as well. So on that left-hand side, there's a normal checklist for a 777. You can read that. That's kind of cool. But more importantly, there's a pre-demo checklist on the right-hand side. So, and again, I walked myself through this earlier. I didn't have anyone calling it out and checking on me, but do not disturb mode is so fantastic. Back in the day, before we had do not disturb mode, you know, you're shutting down your email, you're turning off your messaging system, you're turning off AIM. Anybody remember what AIM is? Okay, you've probably been around the block a few times like me then. Your phone is silenced. Turn off your bookmark bar. Now, some people give me crap about, some people have questions about why you should turn off your bookmark bar. I'm worried about people seeing things on the screen that are distractions from the story I'm wanting to share with them. So extra tabs, bookmarks, anything that's not needed to help support your story, I want to get rid of. Paper and pen nearby, I always have my notebook with me. I'm working on my cursive, not today, but that was really fast. Yesterday I was working on my cursive. Water, if you need some of that, absolutely. For your virtual meetings, look at going into the settings and setting it up so that when you join, you're muted, and maybe your video is not on either. I posted on LinkedIn a while back asking some of my network to give me stories of fails in meetings when people didn't do some of these things. And Julie Hansen was talking about, you know, she does a lot of this work, and she has seen some personal grooming going on that probably didn't need to be seen. My best story is someone else was doing a demo and they didn't turn their messaging off. And as they're demoing this certain feature in the application, one of their colleagues pops up a message basically talking about how this feature doesn't actually work and using some fairly colorful adult language. Needless to say, that meeting did not land the way it was supposed to land. It was not a pretty scene. There were some interesting meetings that happened after that. So pre-demo checklist, I think this is the one thing, if the one tip today, if you pick this up and work out a good checklist, it will help you avoid a lot of bad stuff. All right, number 7, plan for the worst. I picked up this picture from a blog called The Trash Blog. And again, the longer you look at that, the worse that sucker gets. They had the best intentions, but it's just bad. Don't worry. Things will not always go as sideways as far. Things will not always go wrong, but things will go wrong. And it's just really important to think about that. Have a backup plan to help mitigate some of that risk. You want your meetings to go well. You want people to get what they need out of your meeting, and you don't want to look bad. So sit there and think about things that could happen and try to mitigate that risk. You know, Curtis and I did a goofy little video the other day, and one of the things was backup plans. And I talked about, I've got this bag in my backpack that has, you know, HDMI, it has display port, it's got USB. I mean, any adapter you could think of for video, it's got it. Now, if you walk into a meeting room and they've got one of those barcode pucks, I'm telling you right now, that's 50-50 whether it's going to work or not. So Godspeed to you, good luck. Those things are just crazy. The other backup plan is that I've actually utilized before is having an alternate virtual meeting account that you could use. So I've got a Cisco, I've got a WebEx, I've got, obviously a Zoom, I've got Blue Jeans, different tools just in case something doesn't work that day. And best WebEx story is I've been doing this so long that I remember the Super Bowl commercial that WebEx had back in the day, and their spokesperson was RuPaul. And RuPaul had this dress that was blue and green, like the logo, like the colors. And the tagline was, "We've got to start meeting like this." Now, little did WebEx or RuPaul know the world we would move into shortly down the road. Now, as much as you can, have a backup plan and think about ways to mitigate risk, stuff is going to happen that there's no way to be prepared for. So here's some of the ones that I've run into over the course of my career. The fire alarm going off in the middle of a meeting. Now, you would think that's not a bad thing, but the way it actually happened was the fire alarm goes off. It's one of those where we actually have to evacuate. You can't use the elevator. So we walk down, I think it was like 6 or 7 flights of stairs. We get down there, 10, 15 minutes, we the all clear, go back up. Yeah, we still have time. Yeah, we can still, have this meeting. Get about 10 more minutes into it, alarm goes off again. Same thing. Leave the room, go back downstairs, wait, come back up. They're like, no, we can extend it. We can go past lunch. We can get this done. It happened a third time. You can't make this stuff up. So we ended up having to just boot and reschedule. And it was one of those things that we kind of bonded over with the prospect, right? They remembered it. I talked about being memorable. That was memorable in a bad way. This is a really good one. Prospect stops the meeting and asks certain people to leave. We were presenting with a consulting firm. The concept was we would sell the company the software, the consulting firm would implement it. We had done a really good job of discovery and doing our homework and understanding what it is they're trying to solve. I don't think the consulting firm had invested as much as we had into it. So as we're going through the product portion of it, they would ask questions that were coming out of right field and seemed to be stuff that we had already covered. And this happened a lot, and it got uncomfortable. It got uncomfortable to the point that the person leading the meeting asked us all, hey, we're going to pause for just a second. Would y'all mind stepping outside in the hall? Never had this happen before. So we all leave. We leave our stuff there. We step outside and, we're kind of getting it together, our company and talking. They're kind of getting together, their company talking. We're, what the heck's going on, And then someone pokes their head back out and they said, hey, would you guys come back in, meaning the consulting guys? So consulting people go back into the meeting. Can't really hear anything. But about 10 minutes later, they all walk out with their stuff. So it's like, okay, don't know what's going on. And then they called us back in. And what happened was it became very obvious to the prospect that the consulting firm, they didn't feel comfortable with them because they hadn't done that discovery. They hadn't done their homework. They didn't understand their business. So they basically dismissed them and they looked to us and they said, do you guys have services? Well, yes, we do. And so we had to do another meeting down the road where we brought all our services team, but that was just really interesting. The last one, again, I only tell you true stories, so don't make stuff up. A person stands up during a meeting, yells, and runs from the room. That is something that will throw you off if you're the person presenting because you don't know what the heck's going on. You're worried about this person. You're not sure what the deal is, but we all kind of paused for a minute. Someone from their company left to go after that person who screamed and ran out, and they asked us to resume. So I was like, okay, so a little bit of a stutter start, but we kind of got back into it. Later on, she had gotten some kind of message on her phone, a text message that something had gone on, and she's fine and everything was fine, but it really, really kind of shook everything up for a little bit. So again, even the best backup plans don't account for some of these things. So plan for the worst, think about ways to mitigate bad things from happening during your presentations. Don't worry, that's not a bad thing. Just pulling your leg. So the blue screen, just one last little story for you here. I had a seller I used to work for back in the day. I'm gonna call him Bob because that's not his real name, but I don't want to tell you what his real name is. Y'all know the donkey from Pooh, Eeyore? I kind of felt like Bob was Eeyore. They're never gonna buy, I'm never gonna make a sale. He was just so depressed all the time. We had this really big meeting and a big presentation for a large deal, and it was going really, really well. But then in the middle of the demo, this is back when I was on PC, I'm a Mac now, very proud of that. But anyway, we're in the middle of the demo and I get the dreaded blue screen of death. And there's nothing to be done. You try the reboot, it's the laptop is just trashed at this point. This is back when nothing was in the cloud. Everything was on your machine. You're running like NT server and you run the application and you're running the browser to get to it, and everything is on your box. We had a couple of slides on Bob's machine, so we could pull up the slides and kind of talk to it, but that's not the same, right? So it was a disappointing finish to the meeting, but we had a decent relationship there. So we worked with them. We got another time set up. So we're getting ready. Bob finishes up his piece of it. I'm getting into the demo, and I had snuck one of these into my slide deck, and I knew it was going to happen. So I pulled it up and just kind of watched Bob, watched all the color drain out of his face. I gave him, I know, I'm cruel. I'm sorry. It was hilarious. I gave him a few minutes, and then I jumped back to the screen to show him that I was pulling his leg and everything was fine. And it ended up being a funny moment. The customer remembered it. They laughed about it. So it ended up being kind of a fun thing. But man, I mean, I could have given the guy a heart attack, I guess, but I got a good laugh out of it. Tip number 8, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I say this a lot. I talk about this a lot to people on the team. I think you're supposed to use these things in the proportion that God gave them to you in, right? And what does that mean? That really is about active listening. It's about not talking over people. And yes, in a demo, the sales engineer is going to do a lot of talking, but there still should be opportunities for the customer and the prospect to do talking as well. We need to be learning from them. So a good question to ask yourself is, when you're speaking, are you talking about you, or are you learning about them? There's a great book out there called I Hear You. It does a really good job of active listening. It's as much a relationship book as a business book, but check it out and see what you think. And number 9, they can't eat you. What the heck is this one about? I posted, I think it was last year, I posted about this. At the end of the day, no matter how poorly your meeting goes, I guarantee you, you will be alive after it. You're going to walk out of there. They're not going to eat you. Bad things could happen, but you're going to live. When we're selling software, you know, we're not curing cancer. We're not solving world hunger. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to perform. Sometimes if we don't, give yourself a little grace. They're not going to eat you. Now, where did this story come from? I worked for a consulting firm for a long time, and the owner there's a great guy, gave me every opportunity in the world. He could be a little bit crazy. If he's having a good day, everybody's having a good day. We're having margaritas on the porch at 3 o'clock. If he's having a bad day, everybody's having a bad day, and you just can't run and hide. You're looking for shelter, you can't find it. When he was having a bad day, I'd be the person that he took some of that out on. I was actually doing some internal development at the time, and it was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. And it weirded me out, because by all accounts, I'm doing a great job. He loves me, but then I'm getting chewed up one side and down the other. And so I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do to figure this out, right? And so I went to one of the other senior people in the company who dealt with the same person. I said, listen, here's what's going on. You know, does this ever happen with you? He says, oh yeah, it happens to me all the time. I said, well, how do you deal with it? And he looked me in the eye. He said, well, Ron, I just tell myself, you can't eat me. And so that has stuck with me since then. You know, do your best, put your best effort out there. If something bad happens, you're going to survive. You're going to live to fight. You're going to live to demo another day. The sun will rise tomorrow. It's going to be okay. And then number 10, find the fun. It's too easy to just run from task to task, accomplishment to accomplishment, demo to demo, and not take time to soak in the experience. I've been very fortunate and blessed to travel much of the world in this job that I've had. Not so much lately. I'm complaining about that. I like travel, not so much lately, but you know, I tried to give myself an opportunity to enjoy some of it, especially for the further away trips. I had an opportunity to do some meetings in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It was amazing to experience Ramadan as it was actually kicking off. I got to go to the Burj Khalifa, and I did the touristy thing. I went up, I've got some pictures looking down from the Burj and looking out. It's amazing. The Milan Cathedral, the story is it took 600 years to build it. And if you've been there, you know that all the roads radiate out from it. It is truly the center of the city. I was in Australia for a week, and it wasn't just Australia, it was back and forth. So there's the Sydney Opera House in one picture. The other picture is from Perth, where, you know, when's the next time I'm going to be in the Indian Ocean? So let's get a picture of that. And then I was doing a partner opportunity in Manchester, and Man U was actually playing a match that evening, and it was in Old Trafford. So what experience to be able to go and see a match at a stadium like that. So find the fun, even if it's domestic travel. You know, there's cool things to do. I remember a time I was in Kansas City and checked out the arch, right? You can actually go up in the arch and look out and do some cool stuff. So look for the fun. Be sure to have some experiences over the course of your career as well. So in the best Letterman top 10 fashion, here is the slide where I want to kind of pull them all back together for you. Expectation setting, super critical. Block your calendar, own your time, manage it properly. Invest in the relationship with the people who you're going to be working with every day to try to go out and sell some things. 4, plan and prioritize your prep time. Have that methodology, have a practice, have a process for walking through it so that you're maximizing the impact to your audience and making the best use of your time. Know your audience, do your research. You may not always need to go out and read a 10K, but have some understanding of who the people in the room are and what their motivations are for being in the meeting. And what are they wanting to get out of that meeting? That can really help you be more effective in your job. 6, checklist. Again, it's like a life vest, right? It's going to save you from some heartache at some point. I think we all have those fail stories. 7, plan for the worst. Think about backup plans. If something really bad and crazy happens, just always try to remember to be calm, be professional. Everyone else is trying to figure it out too, right? Don't throw fuel on the fire. Underneath, be the duck, right? Just nice and still on the surface. Your feet may be going crazy under the desk. That's fine. Don't let them see you sweat. Number 8, think about that active listening. Think about the proportion between ears and mouth. I love that one. 9, they can't eat you. It's going to be okay. You'll live to demo another day. And then 10, find the fun. Look for opportunities to experience as you're out doing some of this crazy work that we do. So that's what I got for you today. I hope you enjoy that. And it's my favorite time now. It's audience participation time. So I'm going to invite Sammy back to kind of help me out with this a little bit.
Hello.
And I would actually like for you guys to utilize the chat and respond to some of these. Then we'll do some Q&A as well. But that first question up there, looking through the 10 tips, do you have a favorite one from the ones I shared today?
They can't eat you. Somebody said that was their favorite. Love that. Some good chats here. Let's see. We got a couple people through the session saying LinkedIn. Let's see, plan and prioritize. We have 2 ears, just 1 mouth. I like that too, actually. I like that just for life in general.
Yeah.
It's a good life tip. Wow, you're getting pretty much all of them coming through here now.
Okay, good. So there weren't any stinker tips. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That second question there, which image from the presentation do you remember? This is really about when I was doing software training. I learned a lot about how adults learn, and everybody knows about kinesthetic learners, auditory learners, and visual learners. And I try to keep that in mind when I'm putting presentations together, and I try to have strong images. So just kind of thinking back to the slides today, what were some of the strong images that you remember from the presentation?
Pre-fight checklist image, the Zoom screen with participants, the blue screen. Got them all coming through here. Pretty much everything again. Calendar.
I would be in therapy for the fireplace picture. Sorry, Jerry. Send the bill to consensus. I'm sure Sammy thinks that's fine. Number 3, this is your chance, right? What's the best tip that didn't cover in that top 10 today? What's your best tip for people who are doing solution engineering, sales engineering, solution consulting?
We had somebody say one earlier. Christy said, have a code word, phrase, or signal to your sales counterpart so they know that you need their help deflecting or creating a distraction.
A safe word.
I love that.
You're in the middle of the demo. Watermelon.
Yeah.
Mind the time zone. There's a good one. A tool. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you. Yeah, Carl's got a good one. Follow up with a short video. video is getting more and more prevalent in, how we communicate with our customers and how we message and everything else. Get good at it, get comfortable with it. There's a lot of great, resources out there that can help you be more comfortable with video. My best tip there is just do it. Just you think it's going to look goofy and horrible, and other people are going to just absolutely dig it and love it. So just get over yourself, go do it. Practice at home, right? Pull up a Zoom, turn the recorder on, record yourself doing something, then go look at it and see what you think. You got to take out some ums. You need to sit up straighter. Do you need to get better lighting? Figure it out.
All right.
Some really good ones in there. Let's go ahead and just kind of open up for any general questions. We've got about 15 minutes left or so. So yeah, I love the Q&A part. So Sam, if you just want to throw some questions at me or invite people on, whoever you want to do.
Yeah, sure. So guys, if you have questions, try and throw them in the Q&A. I just don't want them to get lost in the chat box, but I did see one come through the chat box that said, what are your tips for success for working with internal teams like product partnerships, engineering, marketing, etc.?
Yeah, so tips for working with internal teams, it's really almost some of the same stuff, right? It's really important to be aligned with those people and to understand what their motivations are. If an internal team, and we do a lot of that on the GPS team, right? We're taking on some responsibility around making sure that our launches are coordinated and that the SEs in the field have everything that they need to properly tell stories around these new features. So we've got product managers coming to us. We've got product marketing managers coming with us. We've got enablement coming to us. So what's important to understand is, why are they coming to you? What are they wanting from you, right? Understanding their motivation. What is the ask? And then secondly, does the ask make sense? At other companies I've been at, the product managers would come to the SEs and they would say, hey, we built this feature. Tell us how it should work. It's like, not the way this is supposed to work, right? If you're the product manager, you've built a new thing, you should understand why you built it and what the benefits are. So don't have the people in the field come up with the messaging. You come up with the messaging. Now we could inform that. We can help give you some tips and tricks about that, but understand the motivation, understand what they're asking for. Does the ask make sense? And then, just do the best you can to facilitate that. But it's all about alignment and understanding. And that kind of goes with the, one mouth, 2 ears thing, right? Because I may have to ask a lot of questions, even from internal teams, do my discovery to understand precisely what they need and how I can help them.
Awesome. Okay. Is there a go-to video editing tool that you like?
I've used a couple of them pretty extensively. Camtasia is one that I really enjoy. I've used it a lot, and I can do some nice tips and tricks with it. I've used iMovie on my iPhone before to do something really quick back to a prospect, and typically that's going to be one of those one-shot things that you just kind of trim front and back. But if you really want to get into some video production, I know Tamara on my team may disagree with me. She's got some other tools that she likes to use, but I've gotten good with Camtasia. I'm comfortable with it. I can crank things out. I can do some fairly fancy stuff. So that's the one that I like.
Awesome. We had one question about something you touched on the 2 ears, 1 mouth slide about the book recommendation. Can you tell us what that recommendation was again?
Yeah, I can't remember the author right now. I'm sorry, I'm old enough to forget stuff, but basically it's called I Can Hear You. It was recommended to me by someone who I value, and I went out and got it and consumed it pretty quickly and really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. So I Can Hear You is the name of the book.
Right. Cool. This is a good one. What is your best use of generative AI for pre-sales roles?
There's been a few different ones, right? We use it a lot on the GPS team to help crank out new demo assets. So Seismic is a lot about automating content and understanding how people are using content and how people are engaging with that content. So we're able to use the generative AI to build content that looks like it belongs in a certain industry. And we've been doing quite a bit of that. That's probably the number one use for us. Within my team, recently, we brought a new gentleman on as a senior platform architect in our London office, John Hunt. Hey, John. And we used AI to help put together an API exercise. These candidates, we want to understand their proficiency with building AIs and using AIs, building APIs and using APIs, building policy APIs, I should say. AIs and APIs, we get too confused here. But anyway, we used AI to build this exercise that allowed us to test their proficiency. And John aced it. He did a really wonderful job. But we put together a little bit of an outline and fed it into AI, and then it helped flesh that out and make it into something that was really, really a nice asset. Day to day, I use it to come up with ideas for posts on LinkedIn. I don't just take it from the AI. Let me try that again. I don't just take it from the AI tool and post it. I use it as an assistant to generate ideas and play around with things and come up with something that I think could be useful to other people. So there's a few examples for you.
Awesome. Okay, a couple more questions. Are there any other SE book resources you recommend for a newer SE?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch out there. You're probably familiar with them. To Win, great demo, Demo to Win, great demo. There's a couple that I consumed early on in my SE career. I think those things can kind of give you a basis. They talk about, some of the things to avoid. I think the best thing that someone can do when they're wanting to be an SE and they're wanting to up their craft is find others who are doing it well and find things from their style, their methodology that you can take and make your own. SE, someone posted this, Matt and Rue Dickinson posted this, but SEs are the best thieves around, right? I mean, we're going to take stuff that we see and we like, and that's wonderful. Everything that I can find that I can use and pull into my repertoire makes me better and gives me a little more range. So, find people. You can find so many different demos on YouTube. Salesforce does their demo jam. Go find some demo jam videos to watch. Demo jam, you're doing 3 minutes, no slides, and you really have to be effective. And they actually have prizes around that. Go check out some of the presentations at Demo Fest. That will give you some ideas about things to do and things to avoid. But find someone who's really good at your company and watch them and see what they do and see what you can learn from them.
Awesome. Also, shameless plug. I heard there's a really good book by the CEO of Consensus called Selling is Hard, Buying is Harder. It's a pretty good one.
I've heard about that one, yeah.
Okay. What is your advice when an AE keeps interrupting you and steering your demo story?
Oh, that never happens. Come on, you're just making stuff up now. So first of all, again, I want to give the AEs some grace. And I actually took a job as an AE for 3 years when I was at IBM because I wanted to add that experience to my resume. I wanted to kind of understand my customer a little bit better. And it was fine. I sold some deals and made some money. But at the end of the day, I found out that I'm not coin operated. I'm more of a problem solver and a storyteller. So that's my role. That's where I want to be. So give them a little bit of grace. There's some reason that they're wanting to do this. And maybe discovery wasn't performed together. Maybe they did the discovery and then handed it to the SE, which is really, really bad. You guys should both be involved in the discovery because you're going to hear things differently from the way the AE hears it. The second thing I would suggest there is if you didn't have a chance to walk the AE through what you think the demo plan should be, if you guys both agree that this is the outline, this is a plan, and that they start taking you other directions, then that becomes what they call a coachable moment. You can go out, in your postmortem afterwards, you can say, hey, this was the plan, but you took us in this direction. What did you not like about the plan we agreed on? And yeah, these may be kind of tough or kind of difficult conversations, but if you don't address it, it's going to continue to happen. So think about it as they interrupted you for a reason. They thought you needed to go left when the plan was to go right. Ask them why. Maybe they got a good reason. Maybe they don't. Maybe they thought they heard something different. So have the conversation, get the buy-in on the plan. Then you can say, hey, this was the plan. Why did we get off track?
Awesome. Any tips to stand out for someone looking to land their first SE role with 10 years of SaaS support engineering experience?
Listen, support engineers can make great SEs because you typically know the product really, really well. You probably know the product better than a lot of people in the company. To stand out, I think what I've seen, right, is people using LinkedIn as a platform, having a very clear point of view on sales engineering, posting about it. I've told the story several times, but a young lady on my team, Tamara Richards, She was an ex-opera singer. She had had some tech experience. She wanted to break into sales engineering, and she was posting really interesting content on LinkedIn. The particular series she was posting was why musicians make great SEs. And it was like a 5-part, and one part was about empathy. And that was something I've learned. And I believe that's a superpower that every SE can develop and just be really, really good. And I'm a sax player, right? So I commented on that post. Hey, yeah, I love this. I play sax and blah, blah. And that started a conversation with her. And then about, let's see, that was probably, Tamara will correct me, but it was probably, I think that was like April or May. And then she joined our team in July, right? I had a position open up. I called her and said, hey, I think this is going to be interesting to you. And it was, and she applied, and she's doing wonderful work on the team. So find a way to stand out. I think LinkedIn as a platform is a great place to stand out. Have a point of view, do some interesting content. Think about doing a video. Think about recording yourself doing a demo of something, maybe that tool that you've been a support engineer on, and make it a real tight 3-5 minute demo. Post that under your content on LinkedIn so people can see what you look like when you're doing a demo. And then network like heck, right? It's a tough market right now because of all the different layoffs we've seen across the tech companies. So there's a lot of really good talent out there that you're competing against. So sometimes as a new person trying to break in, that can be really difficult. The last thing I would add to this is, and this is for everybody, right? If you're looking to break in, lean into where your experience is. I was talking to an ex-health, well, they're not ex-healthcare professional yet. They're still a healthcare professional. But I told them, you've got all this wonderful knowledge about healthcare. Find a healthcare-centric company where you could be a sales engineer for them, because you bring a lot to the table. If I think about that person going in and demoing to a bunch of other healthcare professionals, how cool is it? How much impact would they have to go in and say, hey, I used to do your job. Here's what I think. So again, long-winded answer, but I hope that helped.
Awesome. We're loving the questions, guys. Keep them coming. All right. What resources do you use to network with other sales and solutions engineers?
Okay, good question there. So obviously I do a lot of work on LinkedIn, and this really has only been the past 2 years. If you don't know the story, I've been very intentional about the past 2 years, and it's generated a lot of wonderful opportunities for myself. This webinar being one of them, DemoFest, and some other things that I've done. Another really good tool is, finding professional organizations that support pre-sales. The Pre-Sales Collective is one. Sales Engineers of North America is another. There's a few others out there, but we just did a meetup last Friday that was coordinated through the Pre-Sales Collective. Excuse me, guys. We had 22 pre-sales professionals get together at a little wine bar just right around the corner. Had a great time. Well, I mean, we were drinking wine, so of course we had a great time, but just networking, meeting these people, hearing their stories. I got connected to a bunch of other pre-sales professionals in my neck of the woods who I didn't know before. So really excited to, maybe get together and do a lunch with them and learn some of the things that they're doing and see if they can, see if they got some stuff I can steal.
Okay, let's see. How technical do you think solutions consultants and sales engineers need to be? Just curious on your thoughts and what you see out in the market.
Yeah. Don't bring up a controversial subject or anything with 3 minutes left in the webinar. Now that's a really interesting one. And I think as you talk to different pre-sales leaders, they're going to have different perspectives. My perspective is based off of what I've experienced myself. I was fairly technical. I had 10 years in IT before I became a sales engineer. I had done basically everything you could have done from building hardware to, writing manuals for training, writing training manuals. That's the word I'm looking for. To being a database administrator, doing a bunch of SQL stuff, to writing code. I mean, anything, right? But what I have found is all of that technical ability gives me some confidence when I'm going in and speaking with these technical audiences. But you don't have to be super technical to have a conversation. And so I always talk about the kind of the 4 things I look for when I'm looking for someone to have my team. The first one is I want a friendly human who can have a conversation. You can't walk into a meeting, throw down a stack of technical certifications and walk out with a deal. That it doesn't work that way. People buy from people they know and feel like they can trust. And the way you get there is through these conversations. So, if I pull that coder out of the basement and, get them all cleaned up and give them a haircut and get some nice clothes on them, that's fine. They still have to be able to have that conversation with someone. The second one is I want someone who's technically curious. I want someone who can pick up new technologies. And you can look at someone's resume and get a little bit of that, but you can talk to them, you can understand how they've picked up other technology tools. And again, there are some certifications that can be super helpful. There's so much in the cloud nowadays that, doing some of the cloud computing stuff, Azure, Google, that can be really helpful. Understanding APIs is becoming more and more critical as more applications become interconnected. So some basic API knowledge building could be useful. I want someone who has the grit for the grind. My experience shows that the SE role is very cyclical. Some days you don't know how. That's my week has been. I don't know how I'm going to get everything done. I need to get done, and then the next week it'll be a lot lighter, and you'll have some extra time, right? You'll be wondering, what do I need to do? Well, there's always something to do, and go work on a demo environment, or I can go do some reading that I need to do. But it's very cyclical in nature, and you got to have the grit to grind out those really, really tough times. And again, I think if you look at someone's resume, you talk about their life history, you can start to understand if they've got that or not. And then the fourth one is you have to understand that you are in a sales role. The job of the SE is not to give the demo. That's not your purpose in life. That's the most visible work that you do on a day-to-day basis. But the demo is just a tool in support of moving an opportunity forward and trying to make a sell. So you got to be comfortable with the fact that you're a seller. Chris White has a great phrase that he uses: to sell is to serve. And so this kind of ties to the next point: is you have to be comfortable, you have to believe in the application that you're selling. I believe very strongly that Seismic provides huge benefits to our customers, makes it easier to talk about and sell it. If you didn't like it and you're having to lie about it, that's going to come through. People are going to see that you're not being authentic. So you have to believe in what you're selling. So it's easier to sell something when you believe in it, but you've got to be comfortable with that idea that you are in a sales role. So hope that helps.
Awesome. Wow, we've gotten through a lot of questions. I think we're starting to slow down here a little bit. So I think, if you're cool with it, Ron, I think we'll kind of wrap up a couple minutes early.
Sure.
But thank you everyone for all of your participation in the chat box. Thank you so much for all of your questions. If you guys come up with additional questions, I know Ron, I'm sure, would be willing to connect on LinkedIn and chat with you guys there. But thank you so much, Ron, for lending us your time and your expertise. And thank you everyone for joining us. We hope to see you at one of our upcoming Demo Fest events in the next couple of months. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, y'all.